meeting of the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders is hereby called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham. Here. Freeholder Johnson.
Here.
Freeholder Luciano.
Here.
Freeholder Mercado.
Here.
Freeholder Pomares. Absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Siebel. Here. Freeholder President Gill.
Here.
Mr. President, may I make an announcement about the mics? The system that we're at, we're only going to have 4 mics open at a time, so to err on the side of caution, I'm going to ask you to keep your mics off unless you're speaking. When you speak, turn your mic off. The button in the center is the on and off mic. When it's on, the light is red. Okay? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm going to ask that we please stand for the salute to the flag. I'm going to ask Freeholder Johnson to lead us in the salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to ask that we please remain standing for a moment of silence. I'm going to ask that we please remember all of those who were lost in the 9/11 tragedy 18 years ago today. Thank you. I have before me certification from the clerk that this meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act. At this point in the meeting, we would normally turn things over to our district freeholder, District 5 freeholder Carlos Pomares, who represents the township of Montclair on the freeholder board, but he is attending, he will be here, but right now he is attending a 9/11 ceremony in the neighboring community of Bloomfield and is expected here shortly. He asked me that I put on the record that he is sorry that he is late this evening, but he is very happy and supportive to have this meeting here in the township of Montclair. He also asked that he let everyone know that he has that he takes great pride in representing this community in our District 5 freeholder Carlos Pomares. With that, I'd like to call to the microphone. I see in the audience from our host community a great friend to the county, personal friend of mine, and who serves our township with distinction for many years on our local governing body, our 4th Ward Councilor, who is here, Dr. Renee Baskerville. Dr. Baskerville.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
On behalf of our amazing Mayor, Robert Jackson, and the Town Council of Montclair, I'd like to welcome you all to our fair city. Today, our hearts and minds are especially focused on the families that were lost in the 9/11 tragedy, the first responders, and their families. On that day, our county executive, our freeholders, our mayors, our municipal elected official members and elected officials all across the nation rose to become our better selves. In fact, I'd venture to say we rose to become our best selves. We had a clear vision of what was needed to be done without paper and pen, and our instincts kicked in and led us to make many right decisions. We worked together across party lines. We worked together in cooperation across socioeconomic, across race, gender, and sexual preferences, across the great divides that normally separate us. We instinctively knew what we had to do, and we moved with haste to get it accomplished. Let that be our daily model to move our activities collectively and justly. We were able to do that then. We were able to move people from suffering to providing human needs on short-term and long-term. Let that be our daily reminder as we move forward. And I'd like to thank you all and congratulate you for your service. God bless you.
We'll get it down. Thank you, Dr. Baskerville, for being here tonight, for those words. I also want to thank both the mayor and the council for each year working with the board to allow us to bring county government as close to the people as possible. We wouldn't be here tonight without working with you, and I just, on behalf of the board, it's not something I know that we take for granted. So thank you for always making your office available to do this and to allow us again to bring county government as close to the people as possible. I would also be remiss to say that I also take great pride in being here this evening. I'm a graduate of this school, although the annex was not here when I graduated, but a graduate of Montclair High School and a lifelong resident, and love this community and all the opportunities that it has provided me. So on a special note, wanted to just say that I'm so thrilled, Madam Clerk, that we were able to be here in Montclair today and tonight. So thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any transcripts to be approved?
Mr. President, there are one. I have to remember to push that button too. Conference board meeting, July 25th, 2019.
Okay. Madam Clerk, are there any topics of discussion?
My apologies. Mr. President, there is only one conference board meeting for July 25th, 2019.
So, Madam Clerk and Council, are we taking a vote? Because right now I'm being indicated that we're not taking a vote on these transcripts. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the transcripts from July 25th, 2019 from the conference board meeting?
So move.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham. Yes. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Siebel. Yes. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, are there any topics of discussion?
Mr. President, there are none.
Okay, let's move to the public comment session. Tonight's meeting is a conference board meeting, and we will vote on every item on the agenda. So if there's any member of the public who would like to comment on any issue at all, whether or not it's on the agenda, you'll have an opportunity to speak. Please come to the microphone, state your name and affiliation for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
We can start. Okay. Good evening. My name is Jay Arena. It's very loud. I am a resident of the city of Newark, the county seat of Essex. So it's very appropriate for me to be speaking here in Montclair, the power seat of Essex County, particularly over Newark. The power elite here in Montclair have dictated the direction of my town, my city of Newark. The people like Chris Cerf, Don Katz, the major capitalist, the dynamic duo of Amy Rosen and Timothy Carden, and John Schnoor, who worked with the Obama administration in the race to the top, have worked to sabotage and privatize public education and turn it over to their Wall Street buddies. And some of that was cooked up with John Schnoor at the Harvard School of Business, where our good illustrious mayor here, Robert Jackson, got his MBA. That has allowed him to oversee the blood money contract that the County of Essex and Deportation Joe run for their good buddy, Donald Trump. Yes, your good liberal mayor working hand in glove with the deporter in chief. So we call for that blood money contract to end, and we want to commemorate not only those that were killed on 9/11, we do want to commemorate that. We salute the president for recognizing them, but we also want to commemorate the 1 million people that were murdered in Iraq in a war of lies, in a war of aggression also that came out of 9/11. We want to remember those millions. We also want to remember the men and women that have been dragged, exploited, their families suffered in the concentration camp, right? We've been calling that for 2 years, and now the country recognizes what you run as a concentration camp. So we want to remember those that have suffered, that have died. Yes, they have died in this concentration camp that Mr. Jackson runs, and that
30
unfortunately this board continues to support. And so we call for this blood on 9/11. We call for an ending of this concentration camp, of this blood money contract. And we salute the president for coming, for going public, for calling for its closure. But we need to have a vote before this board to show where all of you stand. The public deserves this. We need to know where you stand, and it needs to end now. Thank you.
I'm on a positive note tonight because it's good to have some positive vibes in a sad situation of 9/11. We do have a situation with the community.
Can you pull the mic down a little bit?
We have problems with the community cats in our Essex County area.
And your name on the record?
Oh, my name is Charlotte Gala, but I'm known as Cat Lady of New Jersey, also Mama Meow. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm glad to speak tonight to say that the freeholders have finally understood that the community cats have been suffering for a long time and being ignored, and also dying, suffering. In fact, we have one cat right now trying to, he had a broken jaw, and they're trying to let him eat soft food and pray to God that he doesn't have to have construction on his jaw, because of course $10,000. Who is going to want to invest $10,000 for one cat? But this is the kind of compassion people that we have out in Essex County, and it's not fair to them. But my song tonight is, you are our sunshine, our only sunshine. You make us happy when skies are gray. That's what all the community cats are singing together, because we are getting to have the freeholders make a difference and have a pilot program to try to track, neuter, vaccinate, return, and manage these cats so that we can have a quality of life for residents and the cats. Instead of screaming, take those cats with you. Millions and millions of cats, get them out of here. Now that's not what we have to do compassionately as we have to do other issues. It might not be important to you, but it's to every rescuer, every feeder, and myself included, that I'm starting to open up eyes to understand our community cats have rights too. Thank you again, and as I always end it, meow, meow. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pamela McElvin. I'm with the Palm Street Block Association and advocating for the Bellsboro Park. I am pleased. We do have the fence I'm not going to speak too much about the fence because they're still working on it. The senior building is back open again. I'm happy for that. And the water fountain that I asked you guys to turn off, that is off until, no water, a filter or something is put on it. But the senior building, I was promised, because it's a building, we get more families coming to the park, more kids coming to the park, but it don't have a window. And I was promised that they would put one in, a window, and an ice machine. in the building. I was promised that. Then the playground area. It's definitely a quality of life because now we're getting more kids coming to the park, but the landscaping is very poor. It's very poor. It need to be redesigned because they have all the trees and plants inside the playground area, and it's taking away space. Now the swings we have in there, they have swings for the smaller kids, the handicapped kids. It's fine, but the problem is the bigger kids come, the older kids come, take the swings and flip them over so they have no swings to swing on. So they take the smaller kids' swings and flip them over, then bring them up a little higher. You know, so the playground need to be redesigned because you got this big old, like I said before, a flower pot sits in the middle. It takes up a lot of space. All that landscaping that's inside, it's not needed. It's really not needed, and it would give more space. Baseball field. I have people come to me, they would like to bring back the little leagues to the park. The park is really, is coming back to life, but I still need you guys to help me out a lot. So the baseball field, I said I would bring it up. I'm gonna ask hopefully by the spring because there's just dirt there, soil. There's no, they wanna come back, they come there and play, but it can be better. Hopefully next year, hopefully next year that we can get sprinkler in
30
the park
seconds.
for the kids for the summer. And that bathroom, I called the state, the county police, because we having an issue with stragglers hanging in the park. Okay, that building that they refused to take down, the old bathroom, it sits in the playground. I walk to the park each morning and a guy was sleeping on the bench. Some is behind the building. That's not good. That building either have to come down or open up. It's not a safe issue. I thank you.
Recognizing Freeholder Palmares for the record.
Good evening, Freeholders. My name is Mary Rizzo. As you know, I'm a resident of Newark, New Jersey, and I am here again to talk to you about your contract with ICE and to ask that you end the contract and work towards universal legal representation for detainees held there until that happens, and an independent oversight commission. Last week, you may know that there was a large protest by Catholic groups that took place in Newark and was actually organized by Kathy O'Leary of Pax Christi, New Jersey. This was an incredible and really important protest because what we saw there were Catholic groups from all over the country coming together in Newark to put their bodies on the line about immigration, specifically our county contracts with ICE, and also the national issue of child separation that's taking place at the border. And we began at a church in Newark where more than 250 people, probably 350, sat, stood, listened to a variety of speakers who brought this issue together in the context of Catholic teachings. And then we marched down to Broad Street to the Federal Building with even more people joining along the way. There were speakers, I was one of them, but the crux of the event was an act of civil disobedience by dozens of Catholics who laid down in the formation of a cross in the middle of Broad Street, literally putting their bodies on hot pavement in order to show their commitment to ending these issues. A symbolic number of them were eventually arrested, but they stayed out there for at least a couple of hours, and if you remember, last Wednesday was an incredibly hot day. I'm talking about bringing up this issue and this protest in particular for three reasons. After the protest was over, I was Googling to see which news media were there and which picked it up. NBC4, Telemundo, CBS. I saw articles on HuffPo, Newsweek, NJ.com, NorthJersey.com, and probably like many more that I can't remember off the top of my head. So what does that mean for you all? That means that this issue has incredible public visibility in your backyard, and that the nation and folks in this area are watching you. Secondly, there were, as I said, kind of two big issues at this protest. One was the child separation that's happening at the border. The other was what's happening here in New Jersey with the county contracts with ICE. And I think that's really important that these groups were connecting those two issues together. Because as we've been saying to you over the course of the past 15 or 16 months or more, that what happens here and what happens at the border are connected to each other. By having a facility, an ICE facility here, you are allowing ICE to separate families, to take children away, even if we do not detain children in this county and in this state. These are connected issues. So what happens here affects the border, what happens at the border affects here. Finally, I just want to end by saying I was so profoundly moved by the people who were at that protest. The one person who really stuck out to me was an 87-year-old woman sitting on a walker in the middle of Broad Street in a 90-degree day, arguing with a Newark police captain. And when they asked for who would be arrested, her hand shot up first. People are watching you, and more people are getting involved in this movement, and you need to listen to all of us. Thank you.
Good evening, Freeholders. Whitney Strube, Newark. I'm the co-chair of the North New Jersey Democratic Socialists of America. And on September 11th, I remember the lives that were lost in 2001, and I also remember a few years later the Islamophobic frenzy that led to the creation of ICE under the George W. Bush administration with architects like Paul Wolfowitz and Dick Cheney. And I'm horrified that 16, 17 years later, here I am living in Newark with a Democratic county government that cooperates with this horrible organization created by warmongering racists. And so, you know, I've said many times that your cooperation with ICE needs to end. I reiterate that tonight, and I have three questions to pose to you that are more concrete. One, a few months ago I asked this exact same question. I never received a response. I'd like to ask again for the record. In April of this year, on the 18th, Joe DiVincenzo's office sent you a memorandum claiming that his office spends $118 a day, $1 less than it takes from ICE, on detainees in the Essex County Correctional Facility. Quote, all of the federal funding is used to support the detainees, end quote. I'll tell you my opinion on that. My opinion is that that is laughable, that is untrue, and that is a pathetic desperation ploy by Joe D's office. But I would like your opinion. Do you accept Joe D's analysis that all of the federal funding, the $50 million you're taking from ICE, is used, quote, to support the detainees? I would like a response in writing. Question number two, just the other month, you renewed your contract with Keefe Commissary, a corrupt vending organization that exploits prisoners and detainees and paid millions of dollars in fines in Mississippi for bribing prison officials. As you may recall, I shouted shame at you when you renewed that, and I reiterate that I find that shameful. At that meeting, it was mentioned that the Inspector General of Essex County had done an investigation of Keefe Commissary. I filed an Oprah request to see that investigation report, and my Oprah request was denied on the grounds that it is of an advisory and consultative nature. I disagree with that assessment. That's a public document. And so my second question for the record is, will you give me access to that report? There's absolutely no reason that you could not do that. I'd love to read it. Maybe it's very compelling. I doubt it. But so, for the record, will you share that and make that public, the Inspector General rather, on Keefe Commissary? And final question, I know I have a few seconds here. Last meeting, Mary and I read an article about Farouk Karimu, who was raped in custody in Essex County Correction Center and then deported to Ghana without due process of law. You may recall that. I hope you do. It's a searing story. My question for the record is, has any freeholder done any concrete action in regard to that? Have one of you made a single phone call? Have you sent an email? Have you issued a statement? Are you doing anything, or are people just being raped and deported while you cash in on it? Thank you.
Good evening, freeholders. My name is Scarlett Redman. I'm a resident of Bloomfield, New Jersey. I'm here tonight also to ask you to cancel the ICE contract immediately as soon as possible. I came here with my husband and baby. They had to step in the hallway. Bedtime is 7 o'clock. We are risking a meltdown to be here, and that speaks to how deeply I feel about this issue. I come as an individual. I'm not associated with any formal group. I know that the ICE contract predates the Trump administration, and I think that detention of immigrants needs to end across the board. But at this time, for the Essex County Democratic freeholders to be complicit with the Trump administration is abominable and immoral. I was a pen pal with an individual who was detained in Bergen County Jail, and I didn't have the ability to visit regularly, but I visited him in detention on Thanksgiving 2017 and got to know this individual. He was ultimately deported to El Salvador. From writing to him, I kind of assumed that he was a decade or so older than myself. I didn't know how long he'd been in the country, and towards the end of our correspondence, I learned that he had come to the country, was basically my age, I'm 32, had come to the country in the 90s, as it must have been as a child, and he was American. He considered himself to be American. He wanted to open a business here. He wanted to contribute to our economy and our country, as so many immigrants have before us. As my family, I come from immigrants. My family came through Ellis Island from very poor individuals from southern Italy and Sicily. We should not be treating today's immigrants in this way. You are complicit in violence and human rights violations against these immigrants, and I urge you to stand up and use your power to reject this ICE contract, to reject these funds coming through the county. It's immoral and it's wrong, and the voters are paying attention, and I hope that you visited these facilities and that you've talked with individuals who are detained there, and I remind you that they are not serving criminal sentences. They are in detention. They don't have to be held while
30 seconds.
They don't have to be held while they're waiting for decisions about their immigration status, and Essex County does not have to be part of this corrupt system. Thank you.
Good evening, freeholders. My name is Mary Gallagher from Maplewood. I work with New Jersey Appleseed Public Interest Law Center, and I'm a member of SOMA Action. I'm here again to urge that Essex County replace its outdated electronic voting machines with hand-marked paper ballots that are read by optical scanner. Since the last time, there have been several reminders of why this is both necessary and urgent. A Senate Intelligence Committee report released in July indicated that election systems in all 50 states were targeted by Russia in 2016. The report described, quote, an unprecedented level of activity against state election infrastructure. It also referred to paper ballots and optical scanners as the least vulnerable to cyber attack. One day before that report was released, Robert Mueller testified before the House Intelligence Committee that Russian efforts to interfere in our elections are ongoing. Quote, they're doing it as we sit here, and they expect to do it during the next campaign. Many of you might have seen a viral video at the end of August that went around of a voting machine in Mississippi that switched votes during a Republican gubernatorial runoff. You saw the voter repeatedly press the touch screen for one candidate, and it kept lighting up for the other candidate no matter how many times he tried. I'm glad it drew attention to the shortcomings of touchscreen voting machines, but that's not likely to be the way tampering occurs because it is much too obvious. It's much more likely that you'll press a button and it will look like it shows the correct candidate, even as it digitally records the incorrect vote. Even with a paper ballot, if that ballot is marked by the machine rather than directly by the voter, the selections might appear correct, but there is no way for the voter to verify the barcode, which is what is read by the optical scanner. We cannot rely on the federal government to fix this, because as you know, Senate Leader Mitch McConnell blocks every election security measure passed in the House. One such bill passed on June 27th was the SAFE Act, Securing America's Federal Elections. Among other things, it would require paper ballots. It would authorize $775 million in grants to help states secure their voting systems. It's not going to happen, though. Our continued vulnerability to tampering by Russia, or anyone else for that matter, can't just be blamed on Moscow Mitch, when our state and county officials continue to
30
fail
seconds.
to take action to protect our most fundamental right, the right to vote. We are running out of time to do this before the 2020 presidential election, little more than a year away. The people of Essex County are counting on you. Please don't let us down. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Pat Kenshaff from Montclair. And I first strongly agree with the preceding speakers. I really hope you can stop supporting ICE. And I really wish we could have paper ballots where we can write on them again. However, I am also very concerned about climate change. And climate change, my husband likes to say, is everybody's idling vehicle. Now, there are two things in my life that you can do to stop idling of vehicles, and that would also make my life a lot more convenient. Because sitting in an idling vehicle is not that much fun compared to most of what things I do. One is the end of Watchung Avenue in Montclair in Bloomfield, which is the intersection of two county roads, and there's a light there. And as you come down Watchung Avenue, it lasts a whole minute red. I've timed it more than once. And it says no turn on red. Please take down the no turn on red sign. I have often seen only one or two cars there go through the whole minute while I'm sitting there waiting. And I've never seen more than 4, which is ridiculously small for a minute. So please, please take down the no turn on red sign there. Corner of at the end of Watchung in Bloomfield. Secondly, to get there, I must go through Watchung and Broad in Bloomfield, which is a fine intersection. But to get there, I must get through Grove Street and Watchung in Montclair, which is appallingly poor compared to the one at Broad Street. It needs left turn signals. It really needs also longer left turn lanes. One can wait 3 cycles through at that light. You know, waiting through 3 cycles. What is that doing to climate change? And it's very frustrating for drivers. So please put left turn signals and
30 seconds.
and longer left turn lanes so that people can go around the way they do in Broad Street. And thank you very much for your service. I just think that these 2 improvements, which are really under your control, could make life a lot better for you, us, and climate change.
Good evening, my name's Roberta Blitz. I'm from Livingston, and I'm also very concerned about election security. And an earlier speaker, I think she really was very eloquent. But we need hand-marked paper ballots. We need optical scanners. This has come up in multiple meetings, and I'm asking you, what are your plans for securing our elections? Can anybody answer that? Is it, will we be seeing something in writing? It comes up and then it kind of falls by the wayside as far as I can tell.
So just Just a point of clarification, all the questions tonight will be answered in writing by the board, but I do know there are a few people to speak on this issue, and let me just make two quick points, through the administration, and correct me if I'm wrong, two things. I think it's safe to say that our intention and his hope is to have new machines by the 2020 election. We have a pilot program that's going to take place this November in a few districts throughout in the county. Actually, will be in Montclair to test out the new machines. The contract for that has not come before the board. The administration will put that before the board. Hopefully, my hope is before the end of the year, so we can have a plan as we go in, before we can go into next year. I have been very clear on the record, op-ed, other forums. I will not vote for any contract that is not a paper optical scan machine. Period. So, but we're not at that point yet. So we have to see what we come back with, and the plan is to get new machines by 2020.
Hello, my name is Julia Beckman. I'm a resident of Montclair. This is my son, Leslie. We're skipping bedtime tonight to be here to ask that you abolish the contract with ICE. I've been watching it on the sidelines a lot. This is my first Freeholders meeting, and I just couldn't watch on the sidelines anymore. I think a lot of my friends here, I'm friends with lots of other young parents, and we've all watched wringing our hands at what's going on at the southern border, saying, what can we do, what can we do, it's so far away, and then come to find out it's actually right here, it's right here in our county. I love this town. Would not live anywhere else in the world. And the thing I love most about it is its diversity. That's why I'm here. I chose to live here. I moved from Illinois to be here because I like being with a diverse population. And it's shocking to me that by living here, I feel like I'm supporting the very thing that keeps me up at night. And all I want is to be able to say that we've done something here, that we are trying to help end this problem. I mean, ICE has become the modern day Gestapo, and we don't want them here. And I know that that is not a simple thing to do. I know there's lots of complications that have to do with that, but it's time. It's time. No matter the complications, I don't want to be involved in it anymore. And so I'm pleading with all of you, please, please, do whatever you can to end the contract. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Freeholders. My name is Carrie Doyle. I'm a resident here of Montclair. I'm also a resident of the 4th Ward, so hello to my councilwoman. I'm here today also to oppose the ICE contract with Essex County. I am also a new mom. I managed to get a babysitter, but I got involved with this as a woman who was pregnant 2 summers ago when we first heard those stories about family separation, and as a new parent, it hit me in a way it hadn't hit me before. And while I know that it's single men that are detained here in Essex County, it's still part of the same corrupt system, and it pains me to think that our Democratic county is complicit in a system that is hurting families. So I'll be brief. I've never spoken at a Freeholders meeting before, but I felt really compelled to come out and voice my opposition tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Fred Chichester, and a resident of Montclair. And first of all, I want to support the request from a prior speaker, Pat Kenshaft, for adding left turn cycles to the traffic lights at the intersection of Grove and Watchung, and also at the intersection between Watchung and East Passaic Avenue. The time is now to get this done, because, as I've been quoted as saying, climate change is everybody's idling vehicle. Now, I'd like to switch topics now, very briefly. I'd like to know, since the Inspector General of Homeland Security made that scathing report about conditions in the county jail to which the immigrants are subjected, I'd like to see a show of hands of how many of the members of the board have had occasion to visit that jail. You have. Okay. I'm glad that some of you are visiting to keep an eye on what's going on. I think, going back to the previous topic, we need to look for ways to expedite the motion of traffic, because to the extent that we impede traffic, we are contributing to global warming, and that probably is the main issue that we face at this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Freeholders. Adam Kramer, Republican nominee, Freeholder at large, Essex County. First thing I want to speak to you about is the fact that it's been many, many years since there's been a public debate for the office of Freeholder. I'm running against Gramani Graham, and I hope there can be a civil public debate. You have been contacted by email. We have sponsorship for a debate. I hope it goes forward. The presumptive wisdom is it's going to be a landslide. All Democrats win again. The prevailing wisdom may very well be right. In fact, probably is right. However, if that happens and there's no public debate, there will be no person who wins the office of Freeholder. You will have won, probably, but the democratic process will be the loser. And the stature and importance of the office of Freeholder will be the loser. And that would be a real shame. So I hope there can be, once again, an established public debate, which the Freeholder office hasn't had in many, many years, in a most civil way. The other thing I want to speak about is the bond issue. For reasons of public health and safety and general welfare, you kind of have to support it. But I have very, very big concerns. The Newark watershed has been operated corruptly and inefficiently for years. I think you have to go in with your eyes wide open. I think you have to cooperate with other government entities and make sure there are stringent controls so that money which we're guaranteeing in bonds for Newark actually goes where it's supposed to. The people of Newark pay big water fees, big taxes. They deserve good water. And you as freeholders have to cooperate with other government entities and make sure there's good oversight so that money actually goes where it's supposed to go. I'd also like to talk about item 13. Your contract that you're renewing with Remington and Varick. The mapping services seem to be contracted at a very high rate. If you drill down on that on the web, it is noted that that firm has given over $20,000 in political contribution to local Democrats in the last 4 years. It is blatant play. I'm really concerned about this contract. Even if it is of value and at the right price, which I have serious doubts about, the optics of it are horrible. Why would somebody give 20% of the value of the contract and contributions to have that contract? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maria Eva Dorigo. I am a resident of Montclair. I'm an immigrant myself, and I been a volunteer for a year for First Prince of New Jersey. I visited Bergen County Jail and Elizabeth Detention Center, and I accumulated a lot of horrible anecdotes that I don't have time to go through them right now. I urge all of you to visit the prisons here in Essex County Jail. If you haven't done that, talk to the immigrants to see how are they being treated as criminals, because I remind you that they are not criminals. They didn't have the luck to have been born here. That's the only crime that they committed. And so if you are going to, you need to be able to see firsthand and talk not only to the immigrants and also to the nonprofits that work with immigrants in Essex County, to understand how they are being treated and all the injustice and human rights violations that are being committed in our county. And, and I urge you as well to separate money for public defendants for the immigrants. Thank you.
Good evening, freeholders. My name is Holly Gauthier. I'm co-chair of the Voting Rights Committee of SOMA Action, and I want to commend my colleague Mary Gallagher for her comments before regarding excuse me, the ballot system that Essex County will be looking at. I'm a little concerned, and when I was at the meeting last time in Irvington, I did ask some questions and I have not received answers. So I will ask them again, and I might add to them a little bit. If you recall, last time I spoke about the fact that not all paper ballots are equal. As Mary referred, you can mark a paper ballot on a machine. A ballot marking device is not a true paper ballot. A hand-marked paper ballot is a true paper ballot. So my question is, and I'm happy to hear that there are going to be some pilot programs here in Essex County. I had been told by one of the offices at the county that that was not the case. I would like to know what machines are going to be used in the pilot. So that's a question I would love to have an answer to. Second question is, what districts will these machines be tested in? I know there's one in Montclair, but if there are in other districts, it would be useful to know so that everyone can have a sense of how these are happening and how the test might work. Thirdly, in regards to this, it's very important that when you're switching anything, even if you went to the ballot marking device, that the voters and possibly more importantly, excuse me, the election of the people at the ballot place, why can't I think of it right now? Anyway, the polling places, the poll workers are educated. I would like to know what kind of training is being provided even for this pilot program or the pilot programs so that it runs as smoothly as possible and that it is actually a fair test of what's going on. The second area of concern I have is that I have been trying for, I and my colleagues have been trying for a number of months to meet with various people within the county office regarding these particular issues. In fact, we were asked last March not to come in March 7th when we thought we would come in, but to go to the Trenton open house where all the vendors had their machines and to meet after that, and the date was set for March 13th. We went to that Trenton open house and we've become, I must say, very well educated on the whole process.
30 seconds.
And when we went to the March 13th meeting, the meeting as planned did not occur. We did fortunately have a meeting with Chris Durkin in Garnett Hall, but the meetings that we had expected did not occur. I'm concerned that this is not looking good for the public. I'm sure there's good reasons for it, but it makes me very concerned and very worried. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is David Harris. I'm the co-chair of SOMA Action's Voter Rights. I'm a resident of South Orange. I'm also here to talk about and support hand-marked paper ballots. But as Holly mentioned, we have been seeking a meeting with the election officials to have a discussion with them about the machines they are considering and may select the machines they're going to test. As she has said, that we have afforded ourselves the opportunity to become very well educated on this issue. We have brought an expert to the freeholders, at least those who were able to attend. We asked if the county officials making these selections are using an expert. We were told no, despite the complexity that they have to deal with and the effectiveness of the salespeople they have to deal with. They are not using any experts. And our concern is twofold. The machines that everyone recognizes that only, I think, 8 states in the United States still use, were selected by this county even though they didn't comply with New Jersey law at the time, which requires a paper record so that you can audit the vote. They were purchased knowing that they didn't have that. So we are becoming a little bit fearful that another mistake will be made. And I remind you, as I told you a couple of months ago, these same machines Essex County purchased, New York State had contracted to purchase. And when they saw that the security rating was zero, like Trump wants the interest rate to be, or less, they argued and actually broke the contract. And it cost them $12 million to get out of that contract, and we bought the machines.
30 seconds.
So what I'm afraid of is that the people making these decisions who refuse somehow to talk to us and are not using an expert is going to lead to a level of frustration that doesn't end in dialogue but ends in demonstrations and protests. We don't want that. We represent an organization of 2,000 people, and you've seen at least 2 other speakers speak to this issue who are not part of our organization. If we have to take to the streets, we will. We don't want to. Please talk to us. Thank you.
Good evening, freeholders. My name is Matthew Solis. I'm a resident of Montclair. I'm here to ask for the immediate termination of the contract with ICE. I'd like to thank the commenters who preceded me and also those of you in the audience who are here to demand termination of the ICE contract. And I'd like to focus my comment today on values. I'd like to respectfully remind the freeholders that when we, the people of Essex County, elect you to office, one of the most important things we do is ask you to represent the values of the people of Essex County. Every single day that this ICE contract continues, we participate in and are the direct beneficiaries of a system that treats immigrants as criminals and a commodity. There's no ambiguity in this. These are not the values of the people of Essex County, and this contract has to stop. Every day that this contract continues, we are continuing to benefit from politically motivated deportations of whistleblowers who are protesting atrocious conditions in the prisons. We are participating in family separations, and most importantly, we're participating in the pain of our fellow Essex County residents who are either being detained by ICE or are family members of those being detained by ICE. This has to stop. It is not consistent with the values of the people of Essex County. This message has been made clear tonight. Thank you.
I'm Kathy O'Leary. I'm with Pax Christi. I'm the region coordinator for the for New Jersey. As my friend Mary explained, I was at the protest last Wednesday. I did have a hand in the organizing. I hate to disagree with my friend, but there were upwards of 500 people there. I know this because St. Mary's Church seats 450, and there wasn't a seat available, and the vestibule was completely packed. And it took us 20 minutes to get out of the church just to start the march. I appreciate the women who came here tonight, who are new mothers. That's how I started. A priest came to my church and told me a story about a woman who had been separated from her breastfeeding infant and thrown into detention. These are the stories that we're hearing now. Children being separated from their parents, parents being separated from their infants. These stories have been around for years. We haven't listened. I have heard recently, oh, it's really wonderful that the Catholics have stood up all of a sudden. We've been here all along. We've been here over 20 years. And it's not my fault that you didn't see us. And what we should be asking, as far as I'm concerned, is not where all of those Catholics were who weren't speaking out against the ICE contract when they were there all along. But what we should be asking is, why are there so many Catholics on this board and in the administration who are contracting with ICE for profit? We are called as Catholics and Christians to see the face of Christ in all human beings, particularly those who are suffering from hardship. We are called to see Mary as a woman immigrant. She bore her child away from home and was forced to flee into Egypt. It's not my fault that you cannot relate these basic tenets of our faith to the people that you see in front of you. I started my day last week at 8:30 in the morning in front of the federal building for a woman named Maria, who could be separated from her 2 U.S. citizen children, one of whom has a life-threatening illness. She has no choice but to take them back to her home country. The child who has that illness could die. This is who you're cooperating with.
30 seconds.
This is who you're cooperating with. The march was led by an image of the Madonna behind a chain link fence with a child in her hands, wearing a mylar blanket as a veil. This is your faith. For those of you who are Christian, this is your faith. It's not my fault that you can't see it. Open your eyes.
Matt Dragon, I'm from West Orange. I'm here again to speak about the need for civilian oversight of the jail. Thank you to the 2 freeholders who continue to engage with me on this topic, and I still hope to hear from more of you. Other people have been making comments tonight about the goal of ending the ICE contract. But even if you did that tonight, we as a county would have accumulated up tens of millions of dollars from that contract over all these years. And a small portion of that tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, has been committed by this body to represent immigrant detainees, and I thank you for that. But those dollars should be getting spent on health, safety, and well-being improvements for both the staff and the prisoners in the jail. They could be spent to eliminate the commissary costs or reduce the commissary costs for necessities at the jail. They could be spent on enhanced and better funded legal representation for all prisoners of the jail, not just the immigrant detainees. They could be spent to eliminate or reduce inmate phone charges. They could be used to increase guard compensation, rewarding staff who act morally and ethically, and ensuring that other staff follow their lead. They could be used to eliminate blind spots without camera coverage, where media reports show staff know to take prisoners before assaulting them. These are all items that a civilian oversight board would note and advocate and try to secure funding for. Instead, Joe D., the county executive, pours money into expanding the zoo. He uses that money to artificially keep taxes from rising and then publicly attacks local politicians who question him, pointing to his limited tax increases and the parks built with ICE money as his accomplishments for the county. He trolls those politicians on Facebook and Twitter, offering to share his financial secrets with them. But those municipal politicians don't have a jail they can rent to ICE. So I'm not really sure how his tips would help our municipalities reduce their tax burden. Last time I spoke, I asked 3 questions and asked for responses, and I haven't heard back, so I'll repeat them tonight. Which freeholders have spoken with the county executive on the topic of civilian oversight of the jail? which freeholders have spoken with the ACLU on the topic of civilian oversight of the jail, and which freeholders are willing to state they will not support any plan for oversight that does not meet the ACLU's recommendations. And as I will repeat in every conversation on this topic, these are
14 seconds.
These are Joe D's prisoners, your prisoners, our prisoners, my prisoners. We need to stand up and step forward to speak for and ensure fair treatment of those who we have decided to place in our prison. We need strong, legally empowered civilian oversight of the jail in line with the ACLU recommendations. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Ms. Martinez, and I'm a resident of West Orange. Annie. Yes. I'm really moved by all the support that is in this room for the migration issue that we're having, particularly because there's so many folks that are speaking that are not from Latino background. I am first generation Latina. So I'm really moved by that. I wanted to ask a question in regards to the Newark water crisis. I attended the lead service line replacement volunteer meeting, quite the mouthful, and was surprised that although they said this would not be at the residents' expense, the form that was given out to the volunteers to go to door, the only yes option stated that they could be responsible for $1,000, up to $1,000. I don't know if that was an administrative thing, that the form wasn't available, but if we can have some type of response of whether or not that form was updated, because that was the form that was given out that day. And I'm also curious how much revenue was made from the VMAs that happened to take place on the same day that the announcement was made that Essex County was lending $120 million to Newark to take care of this crisis, because it just seems unfitting that the elected officials would get a raise around this time of such dire situation. You know, the migration issue that we see happening and what's happening in our communities, not even just Newark. I mean, you can go to Bucks County in Pennsylvania, which is a very wealthy county. It all comes down to climate change. I'm glad that this was brought up here. And we should really be referring to these migrants that are coming here as climate refugees. And that number is not going to decrease, it's only going to increase. And the residents, like the residents of Newark, who have been poisoned for years and years and years, should really be called environmental detainees.
30
because
seconds.
they're trapped in this situation. So I want to believe that we're a lot more intelligent than this. You know, on the day of 9/11, it's a reminder that we are a society, unfortunately, that is motivated by crisis. So we don't have that great of a track record after the fact, as we can see what we did to our first responders. But I really feel compelled to please take the time to educate yourselves and see the connection between this, because we can't bottle water ourselves out of this problem or detain everybody. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Freeholder, sure, Freeholder, I'm sorry. Sure, please.
To Ms. Martinez, you have a lot of important issues. I think you have some misinformation. I'll be willing to talk to you about the information. I'm a resident of Newark. I'm a District 1 freeholder that represents the north, the east, as parts of central, west, and south. I'm also a homeowner who just had its lead line replaced, and I can give you some good information. And just for the record, it is it's at no cost to Newark residents. No cost for all the lead lines that will be replaced, so that folks know. So, and I can sit and then explain some more.
You just have to.
I'm sorry. That's an old form. And I think They gave you an old form. There should be a new form, and that's why I want to educate you on what the actual form should say.
Just, thank you, Fielder Mercado, and I think it would just be important to distinguish too, for the record, that that program's being administered by the city, not the county of Essex. But I do understand that form, because I did hear from many constituents about that particular form, but that form was inaccurate and has since been replaced. Again, I don't want to give false information because this is not a program that we're administrating in the county, or bad information, excuse me, but I do believe that's been rectified. Our staffs are available to help you, and I'm sure Fielder Mercado's offices and all of our offices are here to help you on that issue. But also just important to note that the program itself will be administered by the city government, not county government. Yeah, the new form, thank you for the CBO filter, but the new form is corrected and does not contain the information we're on the one with the $1,000 charge. So, thank you.
Hello, Marcellus Embarrass, Montclair, New Jersey. Praise the Lord, everybody. I came out tonight to support the efforts to close the ICE camps down. I didn't plan on speaking, but I heard some conversations about elections, and I wanted to share a story with you all. This past winter, spring, I worked on a campaign in Newark for the Board of Education because it was that important that I'd leave my community and go into another community and work on a campaign, because I know the damage that a lot of Montclair residents do to communities like Newark when they push things like charter schools and run charter schools in Newark when they know they could never open a charter school in a community they live in. But that's besides the point. What happened when I was working on this campaign is I ended up going to a event that was organized by a woman, I believe her name is Chanel McLeod. She's executive director of Project Ready, and she was advertising this event about learning about absenteeism ballot, and she had Teresa Ruiz on the flyer. So me, along with some other people working on the same campaign that I was working on, we went to it. But apparently, I don't know if it was because we showed up, but the whole agenda changed, and absentee ballots were never discussed. And it appeared like it was just like an event just for pulling voter information in. So while I don't have a lot of knowledge about what they were talking about with the machines, what I did learn while campaigning was the extent that the Democratic Party goes to get in voter data so that they can continue to be the machine that they are, and push people like Teresa Ruiz to represent us on things like Education Committee, who likes to divert our money to big corporations like testing and stuff like that, despite the fact that the parents of New Jersey have spoken already, and they don't want tests. The governor promised us that he would end it. He has failed to deliver on that promise, and I'm just, speaking to it because, this machine, this issue,
30
seconds, yes, thanks, is a problem. In Montclair, we have an appointed board, and it's supposed to, circumvent those issues where you have big money coming in and pushing big money priorities. And we were hoping in Montclair, a lot of people, we kept it appointed so we could prevent that. Unfortunately,
time's up.
It hasn't been that effective lately. But I do want you all to just relay that messages in your caucuses or with all your little political friends that you're with, because it's wrong. It's wrong, and people are now sitting up on the Newark Board of Education that don't need to be there, because I went to all of the debates, and they're not equipped, and it's evident. It's evident. Thank you.
Good evening, freeholders. My name is Serge Demefac from American French Service Committee.
I am a program coordinator at American Friends. I am also a resident of Montclair. And I want to first start by apologizing, to the board of having to sit on bare tables with this minimum decorum. I think even when our Board of Ed, have its meeting here, the tables are covered. But, it's been consistent because I have a hard time finding this room. We were told it was going to be on Park Street. Now, it was supposed to be at City Hall. Now it was supposed to be on Park Street. Now, it's somewhere here. My daughter goes to school here. I have a hard time finding this room. And that's why you see the room is pretty much very empty. So I want to ask, the Montclair officials to find out exactly what happened today. Because this room is underdressed. I've been to other towns. I don't know if that's what's expected from, a town official when we're holding meetings in their townships. So, I prefer to keep part of my time just to address these issues. I'm a resident of Montclair. I want to find out about that. I also want to recognize the people of Montclair for their leadership on this immigration conundrum, because they've been out there organizing events. They have a sanctuary here. But like I said, we know you here in Montclair. We know many different religious groups in Montclair who have been working very hard and pushing the agenda. And this is primarily because in Montclair, there are people who want to see that change. Some of our elected officials here want to see, and some don't. And some have voted against, the sanctuary policy of Montclair. And, as you can see now, our county, needs that sort of leadership. And I'm glad to be speaking here, to have in front of me the freeholder president who's been against, the detention in Essex County. That's the kind of leadership we want to see. So thank you very much, Mr. President. And I also want to, quickly say that the police of Montclair has refused to clarify the situation about, what happened to Lorenza, who was arrested here by the Montclair police and ended up being detained. And people from Montclair raised money, about $6,000 to pay for the bail. That was shortly after the sanctuary policy was passed in Montclair, or the welcoming policy. So I'm also...
30 seconds.
So, and this is a situation that, is leading to the training of our police. Since the Attorney General Directive was passed, I want to know exactly if all the township of Essex County have gone through the training, their police officers, to understand what that means for them. And so that's, the jury is still out. We need to see that very clear. And I have two questions very quick here for the board. What is your finding regarding the situation of Mr. Farouk, who was beaten, sodomized, I believe, and also shipped back to Ghana? We need to understand what's happening there. And secondly, the Freeholder board, met, I think it was the commission to look into the OIG report of last February. And we want to find out exactly if the Freeholder board is receiving the report of all the incidents that's happening at the jail. We want to know exactly if they're receiving it, because it seems that our Freeholder has been sidelined in this conversation. And if we need to put that on the ballot to make the people of Essex County decide if we need to keep this jail in Essex County, or if we want to continue detaining people. So this is a question for the board to really come clear. I want everybody on this board to say we are against it, or really make a point to pass a ballot so that the people of Essex County can decide, since you cannot possibly make a decision. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Cargill. I'm a constituent from South Orange, New Jersey. I'm here today to express my preference for the purchasing of new voting machines for Essex County that will bring the county into compliance with New Jersey law by selecting machines that are the most cost-effective, least hackable machines, whose use of paper ballots also make them the most easily auditable and most directly physically engage the voter in the voting process. Optical scanning machines will accomplish these goals. None of us are naive any longer to how easy it is to manipulate and hack computer systems. We are not surprised when Target has a breach and information from our credit cards are sold on the dark web, and we are no longer surprised when Volkswagen manipulates software to evade pollution control rules. These fantastic new technologies are merely tools used by good and bad actors for good and bad reasons. A democracy relies on an active participant voters. Confidence in our voting system is essential to keeping voters engaged. Confidence happens when voters believe their votes are counted. Nothing is more important to the average voter than knowing that his or her vote will count. When people don't believe that their votes are meaningful or valued, they simply don't vote. Voter disengagement turns into low voter turnout. Abdication of civil voting responsibilities results in minority special interest rule, not necessarily what the people want. A confidence-building mechanism is an audit. New Jersey law mandates that voting machines are auditable. Audits inspire confidence in reported results. The capital markets function because investors rely on audited financial statements. Auditing electoral returns will inspire confidence. I would like the freeholders to seriously consider overseeing the procurement process for the new machines by making sure that optical scanning voting machines are purchased, the type of optical scanning machines where the voter marks the paper with their vote and then the machine scans it. Using machines that optically scan paper ballots serves several purposes at once. One, physical voter engagement. They actually mark the paper. Quicker lines at polling places. People can simultaneously vote behind cardboard privacy screens. Easily audited results of elections using statistically relevant
30 seconds.
Random sampling auditing can also be easily performed for machine calibration or misfunction in ballot design. Paper backup can be used in the case the need arrives for emergency ballot. How fortunate we are that in this case the lowest tech solution and the lowest cost solution is also the best solution. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Yael Weber. I'm a Montclair resident. I've been coming to these meetings for over a year, and as Rosh Hashanah approaches now, I've been reflecting over the past year. In some ways, our movement to end ICE detention in Essex County has made substantial progress. The conversation has shifted to a question of how and when, not if, we should end the contract. Even Freeholder President Gill has recognized the need to end our immoral and unjustifiable complicity with ICE's atrocities. A year ago, most people I spoke to didn't even know that Essex County was in the business of jailing immigrants for ICE. And now it's a frequent discussion topic. Dozens of my neighbors are here tonight in opposition to the contract. But as I'm reflecting on the past year, it's painfully obvious that despite some apparent progress, fundamentally nothing has changed for immigrants in Essex County. We continue to unconstitutionally jail our undocumented neighbors in exchange for ICE blood money. Those who believe we should not immediately end the contract express concerns about individuals being sent to other detention centers far away from their families, from community support. This, of course, happens anyway. We know that detained immigrants are already sent to other centers on ICE's whim, and I have asked this board about those statistics. I was informed that you don't know, and that if I want more information, I should call ICE myself. How many of our neighbors have been torn from their families and put in Essex County's ICE jail in this past year? We know that New Jersey has a disproportionately high rate of so-called community arrests of undocumented immigrants. You cannot truly believe that this has nothing to do with the availability of our detention center in which to jail them while we make a handsome profit. These are not the criminals or bad hombres that President Trump thinks we should all fear. They're honest, hardworking members of our community who would not be in jail if we didn't have such a convenient and profitable place to jail them. Where is your concern for the immigrants who will be arrested and jailed in the coming year if we don't end the contract? You must end the contract
30
immediately.
seconds.
Thank you.
Do we need to introduce ourselves? Stacy Gregg, Rockaway. I agree with everything that's been said in support of closing down these camps. I don't think it's a funny, laughing matter or something where you should be having conversations when people from the public are speaking. I've been coming to these meetings for a year. Most people do not know that these concentration camps have existed in Newark, as well as Elizabeth and in Hudson County. I appreciate Brendan Gill speaking out against them, but I'm not appreciative of taking the long road for some years down the road. I'm talking about in the next 4 days. These people, we have the mechanisms to get them out if you insist that they stop the crimes against humanity. These are crimes. And when you get tried in history, all of you up there may end up, if you're still alive, spending the rest of your lives behind jail, behind bars, like you've subjected these immigrants who have come to America seeking asylum and seeking getting rid of fear from persecution in their own countries. Think about that tonight when you're going to bed, how you would feel being ripped from your families. You act like this, you are removed from this, and you are not. Many of you come from immigrant backgrounds. You have relatives that had marks on their arms, probably like mine. They've gone to concentration camps. This is not something where we make negotiations. You're spending that money like it's water. You're taking little happiness pictures for your relatives years, hundreds of years from now to see, oh, I cut a ribbon on a zoo. Oh, I cut a ribbon on a park. Oh, I did this. It's not funny. So you think about spending your lives on those little cots, not being able to see the sun. I just got a call today that somebody's been in a camp for 26 months. That's 2 years and 4 months, and they haven't seen the sun on their face or felt the grass under their feet. You think about what you're going to do when they try you for crimes against humanity and you have to spend time in jail. You have the power to close these camps and close them now. You could do it in 4 days. They're supposed to be gone through the system and released. You're making money and you don't care. I have 44 seconds and I'm going to start to read this. If anyone else from the audience wants to continue it, I'd appreciate it for a volunteer. Jewish immigrants and other community members in New Jersey are organizing to say never again is now. I know, I have 30 seconds. Join us on Thursday, 10/3, in front of the New Jersey ICE field office to show that we mean never again Paranade. All across the country, Jews and other community members have been fighting back against ICE for terrorizing immigrant families and putting them in camps that operate outside the parameters of our justice system, both at the border and in our communities. I hope you pay attention, and I hope you feel bad, because you should feel bad about being the jailers that you are. You're no better than a Republican.
Time's up.
Hello, my name's Elizabeth Searles. I'm a resident of West Orange, and I came to the meeting in Irvington, and I plan to continue to come to these meetings until the ICE camps are closed down, because I don't want to live in a county where we're making money off of something like that. There are alternatives. You can figure it out. We don't need that money. Please close them. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
My name is Paul Alfano. I work for Essex County Department of Public Works for 33 years. I'm here tonight to speak about a deduction in my payroll check. This deduction is labeled GTL offset. I believe it has something to do with insurance. I'm not getting answers from my union representation, and I'm looking for answers. One, I want to know what GTL offset means. Two, I want to know why it has doubled this year. Three, I want to know how an employee can opt out of this insurance. And four, I respectfully demand to be provided with any and all copies of insurance policies that I have through Essex County. Thank you for your time.
I'm Jody Godfrey, formerly of Montclair, now of West Orange. I moved, sold my house because of taxes. That's for another day. It is my first Freeholder meeting, even though for 25 years I've been an activist with Blue Wave, with NJ, New Jersey for Change, and I am a member of Friends for Family. I'm here to help read the rest of this because I do believe that we have a moral responsibility to treat the members that are in the jails more civilly than we are, and I think that we need to spend that money more appropriately until we have been able to find a way to close them. It's impossible to ignore the historical parallels between current U.S. racist immigration policies and policies of other xenophobic regimes. ICE and CBP operate outside the legal system, remain unaccountable, and they're targeting immigrants of color. As a matter of policy, cruelty is the point. White supremacy and profiteering are the goals. Global history has seen this before, and so we say, never again. It's something I was taught, I have believed in, and I ask you to consider. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that there is no one else wishing to speak at this time. And we will move to our regular order of business. To everyone who came to the microphone, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for speaking out. For those of you who put questions on the record, they will be answered and responded to in writing by this board. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for introduction and first reading tonight?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for listing purposes only?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay. Ordinances and resolutions on second reading and public hearing.
Mr. President, we have one, ordinance number O 2019-00013, ordinance authorizing the guarantee by the County of Essex, New Jersey, of payment of principal and of interest on the governmental loan revenue bonds, project notes series 2019, Essex County guaranteed, the City of Newark project of the Essex County Improvement Authority in the aggregate principal amount not exceeding $120,000. $20 million.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to ordinance number O 2019-00013, and we can read it into the record at a later time. Madam Clerk. Okay. I hereby declare that the public hearing on ordinance O 2019-00013 is open. If there's any member of the public who would like to comment for or against this ordinance, please come to the microphone, state your name and affiliation for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Feld. I'm a resident of Short Hills. I'm a local business owner in the City of Orange Township. On Monday, I sent a letter. I hope every freeholder received it. I am the person that writes all the letters. I am the person who sues this County of Essex. The issue is not whether we had to respond to the public safety, health, and welfare issue. The issue that I really want to address is how we're funding it. The county is providing a guarantee. The county is entering into the federal regulated municipal securities market. There's questions about your audits. I've been raising these issues for the last 2 years, 3 years. Federal regulations require additional disclosures about long-term tax exemptions. On August 22nd of this year, the City of Orange Township, in front of the local finance board, made an admission against public interest, against their interests. They admitted, based on their audit, that they have not made payments to the County of Essex of all long-term tax payments under the long-term tax exemption law. Orange also said they're not alone. Other municipalities have not been paying the amounts. There's issues as to the adequacy of your disclosures in your audit. One of the things I pointed out in your letter, it was advertised in the Star Ledger that there is a calendar year 2018 audit, but it's not posted on the public website. Why is that? There's issues as to the validity of various long-term tax exemptions in the county that were issued by pursuant to the New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency's tax exemption rather than the long-term tax exemption law. There's an issue of whether that exemption does not exist anymore. There's questions as to the amount of monies. Is the county getting the right 5% amount of monies under long-term tax exemption laws? There's lawsuits here. On July 23rd, a federal magistrate agreed with me and said that the action of the state to remove the action to the federal court has to go back to the state court. There are issues. There's a lawsuit being pending. It's Feld 18, where the County of Essex is a defendant. I can't get the county to tell me whether their legal position as to certain issues or whether a long-term tax exemption exists, whether the county knows how many long-term tax exemptions exist in the county.
30 seconds.
The issue is you are fiduciaries of public trust. You heard enough people talking about ISIS. You are fiduciaries. You have a legislative responsibility to make sure the audit. That's your duty as the legislative body, that the audit is correct. I'm putting you on notice. It's been inadequate. And there's an irony here tonight. I'm a lawyer. One of my classmates spoke before. I met Mary Gallagher. We are part of the sleeper cell of the Cornell Law School. We are here in Essex County. Our members.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Adam Kramer, Republican nominee, Essex County, resident of West Orange. I just want to go on the record that, yes, you have to vote for this because the welfare and public health demands it, but the funding mechanism and the whole process really smells. There is no guarantee that Essex County extending its bonding power to help the city of Newark. 2/3 of the people who live in this county don't reside in Newark. That the Newark authorities and the Newark water authorities are going to actually do what they're supposed to do. The historic record on what has happened with that money and what has happened with that watershed and the lead in the pipes is shameful. And I have real concerns that just guaranteeing bonds isn't going to fix it. It's going to take a lot of political will from a lot of entities, state, local, and federal, and a lot of accountability to make sure that what we all want, which is that our fellow citizens of this county who live in Newark can have water that's safe, happen. So I don't think that this Band-Aid bonding approach is really a solution. It's voting yes would be the right thing to do, but please don't think it's a solution. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any additional questions. Let me turn this on. I don't have any additional questions on this, Mr. President. At the last meeting, this matter was discussed at some length. There were a number of, on behalf of the administration, there was the county's bond council present. Mr. McInerney entered a lot of questions and asked a lot of questions on the record and received answers at that time. So I don't have anything to add.
Freeholders, do you have any questions or comments? I'm sorry. Questions or comments, freeholders? Okay, freeholders, do I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on ordinance 0-2019-00013? Moved by Freeholder Johnson, second by Freeholder Mercado. Do I have the same mover and second to approve the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel. Yes. Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Yes. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham. Yes. Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's move to resolution number 1, which is an advice consent nomination for an appointment to the Essex County Environmental Commission. Please read it.
Resolution 1, advise and consent nomination for the appointment of William Barnes to the Essex County Environmental Commission.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you. Mr. Barnes is here. The administration is very happy to nominate him to the Essex County Environmental Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Good evening, Mr. Barnes.
Good evening, Freeholders.
Thank you. Would you like to make an opening
Yes,
statement?
my name is William Barnes.
Good, great to see you.
I'm a resident, City of Newark, Central Ward, District 39. I'm standing before you tonight as a privilege and an honor to be considered for the County Commission of the Environmental Section. I've been in environmental services for about 35 years. I've worked with different contracts with the city of Newark. I've worked with the state under contract doing environmental health services. And tonight I stand before you hoping to be conferred to be a member of this Environmental Commission to represent all residents for the County of Essex.
Thank you. Thank you. Freeholder, any questions or comments? Freeholder Siebold.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. I'm the freeholder liaison to the Essex County Environmental Commission. I'm very pleased that you're going to be part of that group. You have an excellent resume, and I think you will add a great benefit to that group.
Thank you.
So thank you for giving your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Freeholder Siebold.
Freeholder Johnson.
Mr. Barnes, I've watched you throughout the city of Newark and the county of Essex with some of the things that you have been doing. And I'm glad to see that you finally stepped up to the plate on one of these commissions because you're overdue to be there, and you should be there. Your resume shows it and tells it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes, I just want to state for the record that I fully support Mr. Barnes' consideration for this appointment. Mr. Barnes is a lifelong resident of Newark and Central Ward. He has worked in environmental services in his career, and he has been engaged in his community for his entire time that he's been in Newark, so he's going to be a total asset to that commission. So thank you for volunteering, and we look forward to your participation.
Thank you, Freeholder Mercado. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Freeholder Mercado. And thank you, Mr. Barnes, for being here tonight, for your willingness to serve. This particular commission, the Environmental Advisory Commission, is probably one of the most important that we have. So I'm very lucky that you're willing to give your time to serve on it. So best of luck to you, and thank you for
Freeholder Gill.
for raising your hand to serve.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion in a second? Moved by Freeholder Siebold.
I'll second.
Got Ty over here for second. Do I have to settle it, or you guys are gonna? Freeholder Johnson, second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham. Yes. Freeholder Johnson. Yes. Freeholder Luciano. Yes. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Siebel. Yes. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Good
Thank
luck.
you very much. Thank you, Freeholders. Thank you.
Resolutions 2 through 6 are reappointments to advisory boards. Mr. Jackson? We can read them into a record at a later time. Thank you.
No comment other than, again, Mr. President, these individuals have served well, and we're happy to renominate them.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Freeholders, do you have any questions or comments on resolutions number 2 through 6, which are all reappointments both to our Environmental Commission and reappointments to the Advisory Board for the Arts? Do I have a motion and a second to take, moved by Freeholder Siebold, second by Freeholder Graham. We're taking resolutions number 2 through 6 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebold. Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Pomares. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolutions number 7 and 8. We can read them into the record at a later time. Both are in Parks and Recreation. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Mr. Zates is here to address these items.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Number 7 is the contract award to Radical Farms to provide hydroponic farmer trainer at the Essex County Urban Farm in Branchbrook Park. This is revenue that the Parks Department receives. This is at what is known as the greenhouse over at Branchbrook Park, right off of Heller Parkway. And just to explain a little about the services they provide, we do have a representative of Radical Farm here.
Please.
Hello. I thank the board for having me.
Thank you. Could you have your name for the record?
My name is James Livengood.
Like, tell us a little bit about.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So
you can hang up there all night if you want.
Right, exactly. So we propose to continue to operate the Urban Farm at Branchbrook Park as a dual-purpose facility. The first purpose being growing high-end hydroponic greens for a local restaurant and retail market, and the second being offering training opportunities for college and university level community members, as well as residents of Essex County and former offenders. So our mission at large is to provide the best possible greens, period. And we grow baby salad greens, microgreens, herbs, and edible flowers year-round in Newark at the greenhouse, as well as in upstate New York. We also offer training opportunities, as I mentioned, to residents of Essex County. What I'm almost most proud of, though, is our team that operates full-time at Branchbrook Park. We have 6 employees, not including my partner and myself. 5 of our employees are residents of Essex County. 4 are residents of Newark. We historically have hired from a pool that includes students at Essex County College, many of whom are former trainees of our training program, as well as Rutgers and NJIT. And 8 of our employees, including 2 current employees, are former offenders themselves and have completed our training program. And we are very proud to have them aboard and frankly proud to be a part of the fabric of the community in Essex County. So in addition to growing our sales and maximizing the productive potential of this otherwise underused greenhouse, we've collaborated with a number of Essex County institutions, including Essex County College, Essex County Votech, the Newark Beth Israel Medical Center, Rutgers University, a little further afield, Cornell University, the New Jersey Reentry Corporation, the U.S. Attorney's Office Reentry Program, the Greater Newark Conservancy, Casa de Don Pedro, and Table to Table, as well as a number of local and regional schools and independent groups. We recently developed a new seating system with the help of the Tech Lab at the Newark Museum, and we're currently working with Seton Hall University to test a new treatment for seeds involving plasma that, if I'm being totally honest, is way over my head. Though we do value the role at large of larger volume, shorter period training programs, our thinking on this matter has evolved a little bit since our first 5-year award in 2014. And that's really that our most meaningful and lasting impact is as a provider of stable and well-paying jobs in the community, jobs that are honest and sustaining in their own right, while also being accessible to the curious and hardworking residents of Essex County, including those that may not have experience in the industry, but are enterprising and hardworking. So that summarizes it about as well as I can.
Thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio.
No questions.
Freeholders, questions or comments? Freeholder Mercado.
Yes, can you tell me where you're located? In
Yeah,
Branchbrook Park?
So it's at the northwest corner of the park, right in the county parks maintenance facility. So if you're on Heller, sort of catty corner from the Althea Gibson tennis courts.
By the gas station there?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Freeholders? Through the administration, this is an existing project. How long have we been doing this?
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. This is a competitive contract. The same company had the same contract the previous 5 years. This is a new contract for another 5 years.
Freeholder Siebel?
I have visited the facility, and I think it's a place that all of you, if you have time, should go and visit to see what's there. It's very, very interesting. And I think it's amazing that we have this.
Thank you, Freeholder Siebel. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Do I have a mover and a second?
So move.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado, second by Freeholder Palmaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Johnson. Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmaris.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Siebel. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Moving to resolution number 8, we can read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson. Oh, Mr. Zates.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Number 8 is a health and safety emergency authorization for contracts for Riker Hill Communication Tower Buildings electrical repairs. It's due to an outage back on July 9th. Specifically, what this is, as the board's aware, we are undergoing a extensive improvement project over at Riker Hill. As that project was underway, some power lines were tapped, causing an outage. The sheriff's office has a communication tower located on the facility, which is has intercommunications with various emergency agencies, being them in the state or other municipalities. And this contract is to repair that electrical work. The company that we're looking, that is on the case, is a company that specializes in high voltage wires, and it's not covered by our general electric contract. Specifically, there's 2 different vendors for this. There is the actual electrical contractor, which is Starlow Electric, and then there's also a contract within that for Oxford Electrical Contractors for generators. The generators are needed to keep the tower operational while the power lines are being repaired.
Thank you, Mr. Parlavecchio.
No additional questions.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Do I have a mover and a second? Moved by Freeholder Siebel, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Absent. Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Johnson. Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmaris.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Siebel. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolution number 9 and 10, the Division of Hospital, our Hospital Center. We can read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Mr. Director Del Gaudio is here to address both of these items. No, all 3, actually.
Frank Del Gaudio, Director, Department of Health and Rehabilitation, Hospital Center. Resolution 9 is a 2-year affiliation agreement with Caldwell University. That's for recreation therapy, especially art therapy. We bring students from Caldwell and they learn from our licensed art therapists. It's a great program. We've actually have been able to hire some of the students when we had positions open up, and this is to continue the program that we've had for several years.
Thank you. Let's also take number 10.
Okay, Resolution 10 is it's a renewal for the maintenance contract for our electronic learning system through Relias Learning. What this is, we went to an electronic system about 3 years ago. In the past, it was a pencil and paper process where you would read a narrative and then you would take a test. There was one test. It was there were answer sheets everywhere, so we decided to step it up. So what we have now is every employee has a minimum of 13 courses. It takes 8.5 hours total time to get through those 13 courses. Our nursing staff and our physicians have additional courses. And they range, we get to select the courses that are in our core competencies, and then we add electives to those and mandatory programs that are also part of the ongoing educational curriculum. So what Reliance does is they manage all the courses. We have, they let us customize the programs. We also add all of our policies, so we have sign off by the employees that they read all of our policies prior to taking the courses. The tests vary, and if you fail a test, the next test you take is different. And we monitor compliance, and all of our employees, by the end of the cycle, which is a 1-year period, we have 100% compliance with our education program.
Excellent. Mr. Palavecchio. Freeholders on resolution 9 and 10.
Mr. President,
Freeholder Maris.
I just want to commend you for number 9 as a graduate of Caldwell University long ago when it was called Caldwell College, dating myself, I guess. But I'm very happy to see that this program is instituted because the arts play such a larger role in our daily lives. I know you've all have heard me say something to the effect about the arts and the significance. So I'm very happy to see that this is here, and I applaud you for it. And would encourage you to, if possible, to consider expanding it if that opportunity should exist, as we have a lot of other art programs and therapy programs that could be, dovetailed into that.
Thank you, Freeholder Maris. Freeholders, additional questions or comments on resolutions number 9 and number 10?
I'm happy to move it, Mr. President.
Moved by Freeholder Maris.
Second.
Second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk, on resolutions 9 and 10.
Freeholder Siebel. Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Johnson. Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Moving to resolutions number 11 and 12, which are in the Division of Community Health Services. We can read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Director Fishman is here to address these items.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President and freeholders. I'm Eileen Fishman, Director of Community Health Services. Number 11 is a grant from the state of New Jersey for special child health services for children ages 3 to 21 who have special needs, and we have service coordinators who coordinate things, programs that they're eligible for, and we make sure the service coordinators follow their cases and make sure that they get all the services they should.
Thank you.
Number 12.
Can we take number 12 as well? Thank
Number
you.
12 is the Right to Know grant. This is where, through the health department, we go into different areas, different divisions of the county that have chemicals for use, DPW, parks, even at Rector Street for DFAP. But there are many areas that have different kinds of chemicals, and we train people to know how to use those chemicals properly, how to store them properly, and this is the grant to do that. And our health officer does those trainings, and then we have to do a survey every year. Each department does a survey each year and sends it into the state.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Palavecchio? No questions. Freeholders, questions or comments? 11 and 12, this is an insertion of revenue. Both of them. Additional questions or comments? Do I have a mover?
I'll move it.
Moved by Freeholder Siebel. Do I have a second? Second by Freeholder
Luciano.
beat you to the punch there. Moved by a second by Freeholder Luciano. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson. Absent Freeholder Siebel. Yes. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Director. Moving to resolution number 13, which we can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Julius Coultry, Deputy County Administrator. This is an extension, 2-year extension for district mapping for the Department of Board of Elections. It is not to exceed $125,700. In the last 2 years, out of that amount, we only spent $38,751.14 for redistricting maps throughout the county. Every time a municipality redistricts or builds additional housing, the local districts may have to be realigned, and with the census coming up in 2020, this will again happen with the redistricting.
Thank you, Mr. Coultry. The Freeholder, additional questions or comments? I'm sorry, Mr. Parlavecchio.
Okay, I did have a question for Mr. Coultry. You answered the first part, the amount spent on the initial term of the contract. So this 125,710 is based on the maximum amount of work that could be performed.
Correct.
On this contract. Is there any expectation of what work will be done, or is it on an as-needed basis?
It's on an as,
and it's dictated by the municipality?
well, it's dictated by the Board of Election, and this is not to exceed that amount, but also with redistricting, I think the Board of Elections will have to determine how many people per district.
But, and I worded that wrong. It's not dictated by the municipality, but it's based on what happens in a municipality in terms of adding new streets or new subdivisions or new developments.
Correct.
If somebody builds a new apartment building with 300 new units, you may have to change.
Correct.
Okay. Thank
you. Just to follow up on that question, Mr. Provost, that also could be, I mean, the municipality, I believe, can request at any time for district lines to be, not at any time, but it's not just based on additional population or development. So district lines can be submitted or asked to be redrawn for a variety of reasons.
Correct.
Okay. Freeholder, additional questions or comments? Just again, this is an amount not to exceed 2 years, so this would take us through
2021.
20. We would potentially have new election districts for our 2021 elections.
Correct.
Okay. And the amount spent was?
Previously $38,751.14.
Okay.
In the last 2 years.
In the last 2 years, okay. Additional questions or comments, Freeholders? Do I have a mover and a second? Moved by Freeholder Siebold, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder. Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder Graham. Yes. Freeholder Johnson. Yes. Freeholder Luciano. Yes. Freeholder Mercado. Absent Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson. Absent Freeholder Siebel. Yes. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolution number 14, which we can read in the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Director Sirios here, Mr. President.
Good evening, George Sirio, Division of Housing and Community Development. This is a request to enter into a subrecipient agreement with Interfaith Hospitality Network, utilizing the county's ESG funds for homeless prevention activities. This grant was originally awarded to the county in 2017. The total amount of the grant award at that time was $416,165. County entered into subrecipient agreements with various agencies. One agency at the last second returned funds totaling $10,800. This is simply enabling another agency to assist families that are in danger of becoming homeless.
Mr. Parlavecchio?
No question.
Freeholders? Questions or comments? Do I have a mover and a second?
Second, Mr.
Moved by
President.
Freeholder Graham, second by Freeholder Palmaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo. Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Johnson. Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolution number 15, which can read into the record at a later. Yes, Freeholder Mercado.
Just for the record, on item number 13, I just want to enter my vote in the affirmative.
Thank you, Freeholder Mercado. Madam. Moving to resolution number 15, which we can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, this is a contract award to Siemens, an amount not to exceed $148,800. We received one bid from 19 potential vendors. This is an open-ended as-needed contract. Approximately $99,000 will be for labor and $50,000 for parts. This is a completely union shop, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical, and it provides for support and maintenance of our various automation systems around the county, the Hall of Records, the Veterans Courthouse, Historic Courthouse, 50 South Clinton Street, and the Leroy Smith Building.
Okay. Ms. Parlavecchio?
No question.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Have a mover? Moved by Freeholder Johnson, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Johnson. Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Sebo. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes. Resolution number 16, can read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Coltree, this is with Atlantic Tactical in the amount of $24,439. It's ammunition for the Department of Corrections for Winchester's 9mm range, full metal cases, and range 9mm bullets. This is also in compliance with the resolution that all ammunition and police equipment come before the board.
Thank you, Ms. Parlavecchio.
No question.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Do I have a mover?
I'll move, Mr. President.
Second. Moved by Freeholder Pomares, second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo. Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Johnson. Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Moving to resolution number 17, can read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, this is from the Office of the Register of Deeds and Mortgages. It is for a contract with Furrow Regulus Supply Company to supply a paper cutter, and it is used for the mortgage books and obviously the priceless and industrial strength paper cutter. But it's used quite a lot by the office to just cut books as they're made.
Get any recommendations from the Trump administration for this this device for the price? I'm sure they've invested in a couple of those. Mr. Parlavecchio, freeholders, questions or comments? In all seriousness, Mr. Jackson, just for the benefit of the public, I mean, this is a department which has voluminous paper to deal with.
Yes.
Just to give some context of why the county would be spending $20,000, roughly $20,000 on a paper cutter.
It's not only, also, Mr. President, not only the volume of work that's done, but also the nature of it. because if you go into the registrar's office, you'll see just the thickness of the paper that's required. So the thickness, the volume of it requires it, and it's not something that's, you don't buy one of these every year. But it's based on the recommendation of the register, it's time for a new one, and one that's more appropriate for their duties. And also, too, as Mr. Coulter noted, the size of the books are fairly large.
The actual books that the register of deeds has to keep by law.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Do I have a mover? Moved by Freeholder Luciano, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo. Absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson. Absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Johnson. Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Cooper. Absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolution number 18 through 20, which I believe are all in the office of the sheriff. We can read them to the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, item 18 is a reimbursement grant in the amount of $5,500. It involved a seatbelt enforcement operation conducted on May 20th through 6/2/19. It was 100 hours of overtime, and again, this is a reimbursement grant.
Thank you. Mr. Parlecchio?
No questions on that.
Okay. Freeholders on resolution number 18. Any additional questions or comments? Any additional questions or comments?
55. There's $5,500.
$5,500. Yeah. It's a typo.
Right.
Thank you. It's a typo. Thank you. 5,500. Thank you. Confirming that for the record, Mr. Jackson, $5,500.
$5,500,
Okay,
yes, Mr. President.
$5,500. Okay, it's correct on the agenda that I'm looking at, but are we fine, Counselor, on moving forward? Yeah. Okay. So, additional questions or comments? Do I have a mover and a second? Moved by Freeholder Graham, second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Absent. Freeholder Graham. Yes. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson. Absent. Freeholder Sebo.
Yes, please vote in the affirmative on 17 also, please.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Moving to resolution number 19. We can read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Item 19 is also a budget insertion, Mr. President. It's a pedestrian safety grant in the amount of $50,000. This fund will be used for pedestrian safety, education, and can conduct target pedestrian safety enforcement. And in the third quarter of the monies for this grant, a number of citations were made during that period of time. I'm happy to report that on the board if you want to hear it. But
Sure, please.
Let's see, 3 speeding citations, 67 traffic signal citations, 45 stop yield sign citations, 304 pedestrian failure to stop for pedestrians, 2 illegal turns, 130 careless driving and detention citations, 614 seatbelt citations, 576 cell phone, 12 DWI. So it was productive, unfortunate, but productive operation in that regard.
Yep, thank you. Mr. Parlecchio?
No questions.
Freeholders? Questions or comments on resolution number 19? Do I have a mover? Moved by Freeholder Johnson, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo. Yes. Freeholder Vice President Richardson. Absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Yes. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham. Yes. Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Moving to resolution number 20, which we can meet into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Coltria, Mr. President, this is an award to Sparrow Towing, the only bidder. It's a revenue generated for the county. The revenue will be $5,320 per year, and they will total for the 3-year contract $15,960. And it's for Zone 1 towing. We previously came before the board for Zone 2 with another vendor, and it's a 3-year contract.
Thank you, Mr. Parlavecchio.
Mr. President. I did have the opportunity to speak with Mr. Coltry earlier in the week. Oh, now it's working, thank you. As well as Chief Spango from the Sheriff's Office. There's just some questions we had because I think this was a difficult contract to get on the first go-around for Zone 1. And we wanted to make sure that this vendor satisfied all the needs of the county, had the ability to accommodate what the county's needs were, and could most importantly respond in a timely fashion. Chief Spango indicated to me as soon as this vendor was, this bid was received and reviewed, members of his staff went to the tow yard to inspect it and do their due diligence and did verify that it met the county's specifications.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Parlavecchio. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Zone 1, Mr. Coltry, again, is from where to where?
It is actually splitting the county from the north side of the county and the south side of the county. Historically, we used to go with, let's say, from the Parkway west to east, but since these vendors are in the area that works best for the county and for response, then we split the county in a different way this year.
Thank you. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Do I have a mover and a second?
I'll move, Mr. President.
Moved by Freeholder Pomeroy.
Second.
Second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo. Yes. Freeholder Sebo.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolution number 21. Read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Mr. Coltry, we saw a need for a bus service throughout the county for various departments. We put out a bid for it, and Panorama Tours will be supplying, especially for Senior Wellness Day, where we use a significant amount of buses. It's one vehicle at $800 per, and Villanova bus is an alternate at $1,050. It's on a need basis, not to exceed $50,000.
Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio? Freeholders? This will be the first time, Mr. Coltry, that we're contracting like this?
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. President, the reason is that we didn't want to exceed the 17.5 pay-to-play law, and this way at least we have the ability to use a contract and coming before and having the board approved.
Okay. So the primary service you think would be for the Senior Wellness Day?
That's one of them, but we have, if the freeholders needed a bus to go to a certain event or whatever, then this vendor can provide it. It's for use for the entire county.
Okay. Very good. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Moved by Freeholder Seabold.
Second.
Second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson absent. Freeholder Sebo. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolutions 22 through 28, which are all commendations and memoriams. We can read them into the record at a later time. Do I have a mover and a second for resolutions 22 through 28? Moved by Freeholder Johnson, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper absent. Freeholder Graham. Yes. Freeholder Johnson. Yes. Freeholder Luciano. Yes. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson absent. Freeholder Sebo. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Do you have a report of board committees? Do we have any report of board committees? Freeholders, legislative reports, written communication. Are there any written communication? Freeholders, do you have any unfinished business? Freeholders, new business. Do you have any new business to discuss? Okay, Madam Clerk, let's go to public comment. If there's any member of the public who would like to comment on any matter, please come to the microphone, state your name, address, and affiliation for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak.
Stacy Gregg, Rockaway. There is no new business. I don't want to concede my time, but I'm greatly wounded and shocked to hear that Mr. Gill had nothing to present as new business regarding closing the camps. He's been asked many, many times. He said he was meeting with, I understand he was meeting with somebody this evening regarding that particular item. I'd also like to know if I write a letter, would it be, the correspondence be read in at the, I can't believe that nobody wrote anything on written communication. I gather that's from the public. You can answer me after. I don't want to give up my time. I do want to make a point while I'm sitting here, and none of you hesitated when you gave all that money just to kick around the idea of the zoo. It didn't stick in anybody's throat regarding over $600,000 without any oversight. Possibly they'll check back with you. Did you get checked back yet regarding if they're going to improve the zoo? You gave it to your friends and somebody gave it to their friends, because there were a lot of high-fiving and happy people after that money got awarded for kicking around the idea of expanding the arena or whatever was going up. Everyone that's up there, your pictures are already out there on social media. And when Jews Against ICE and Never Again and Close the Camps list your names and the people that were complicit in keeping these camps over, they'll put down how many meetings you were asked to close the camps and to liberate the people who are being contained there just for seeking asylum. So history's already happened. How much longer do you want that date to show out until you guys decide to call the question and put it on the agenda? You don't seem to think it's new business. You sit here week after, every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. You got the sheriff's officers outside and you're afraid of the protesters. You should be afraid. Your name's going to go down in history with how many times you were asked to close the camps. The rapes, the murders, the deplorable things that happen there, it's on you, each and every one of you. We denounced the New Jersey's lucrative county ICE contracts, as well as the Democratic county officials that uphold these contracts. The contracts rake in roughly $100 million per year to keep immigrants in county jails as a way to balance county budgets. Fascist regimes are enabled by the corporation and malfeasance, otherwise reasonable politicians that exploit their positions as public servants for maintaining power. Democrats are both denouncing Trump and ICE while enabling and profiting from both. They cannot have it both ways. Which side are you on? When you look at crimes against humanity and history about Never Again and the trials at The Hague, you are complicit. This is on you.
Good evening. My name is David Greenbaum. I'm a resident of Montclair. My family's been here since 1966. I happen to be a commissioner on the Historic Preservation Commission, and I'm here to speak with you about the Lackawanna project taking place on Lackawanna, Bloomfield Avenue and Grove Street. I would like to state as a public citizen and a resident that I happen to believe from an urban planning point of view that the current plan is entirely detrimental to the best interests of the community. I understand that, from what I'm told, a certain portion of the construction will be taking place on public property owned by the county. To me, if I understand it correctly, that effectively is a private taking of public land. I want that on the record. I think that this is a tremendous opportunity for Essex County to take advantage of a very important intersection, to bring activation and continuity to Bloomfield Avenue, which I understand is a goal of this body. I think there's an opportunity to do something here that will be decades long in terms of great opportunity to enhance Montclair and enhance our county. I ask you as leaders of our county, whatever role you can have in effectuating a better solution that is presently on the table, working with private interests and looking out for the best interests of the community, both Montclair and the greater Essex County community. I ask for your support to try to come up and encourage a better solution, one without such detriment to our community, and one that really can activate and bring great enhancement to our entire community, in particular the Fourth Ward, and generally our overall continuity of Bloomfield Avenue. It's just a win for everybody if we do this correctly. And I ask if there's any way you can show support for that. It would be greatly appreciated by the residents of the town, and I think residents of Glen Ridge, Verona, and other communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam Kramer, Republican nominee, Freeholder, Essex County. For the record, I'd like to talk a little bit about ICE and the contract. Reasonable people could disagree on this, but I think we have to have a certain level of civility when we talk about all things. First of all, to call Essex County corrections officers Gestapo, and these are good people who would put themselves in harm's way to protect immigrants from prison violence, I think is really inappropriate. To call it a concentration camp is also really inappropriate. It's a jail. The fact is that we have laws, we have national laws, we have borders that have to be enforced, and we have a tradition going back centuries in this country of cooperative sharing of law enforcement functions between state, counties, federal, and local governments. Yes, there are problems. Yes, people who are here in this country, legally or illegally, still are human beings, and their humanity has to be has to be respected. But we are a nation of law, and there is nothing per se immoral about Essex County have a role in enforcing our laws. And I hope, even if we are passionate in our views, that we could speak to the freeholders respectfully and understand that there are two views on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak at this time, moving to freeholder comment session. Freeholders, do you have any comments you would like to make? Freeholder Mercado.
Yes, I just want to state for the record, this last weekend, the county celebrated the African Caribbean Festival in Branchbrook Park, and I just want to thank the Parks Department, who did a fantastic job, the Sheriff's Department, who did an awesome job as well, and Madam Clerk and all the staff that were involved in that event. It was a very successful event, very well attended, and I just want to thank them all for their efforts.
Thank you, Freeholder Mercado. Freeholders, additional Any other comments? Just one comment for the record. Would like to thank the administration, the county executive, for the effort each year into our 9/11 remembrance ceremony. For those who were able to make it this morning, particularly for the families, the Essex County families who lost loved ones on that day, to our first responders, our military, and also to our first responders who are here tonight, who oftentimes go unrecognized. Thank you for what you do and for being here. So, and thank you to the administration for what I thought was just really well done. So, thank you. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? I'm sorry, or comments? Do you have a motion to adjourn? Okay, thanks.